Welcome to another Triathlete Fitness podcast. I'm your host, Brian. I'm here with my co-host, Beth. And today's guest is triathlete Brian Goldsmith. But before we get into a in-depth, super cool interview with him, Beth is going to take us through a few announcements.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast tonight. Brian, thank you for joining us. Of course, you guys all know it was a big week for us last week. The Triathlete Fitness app has been launched, and it is available on both Apple and Android platforms. And don't forget, the first 50 to download and create their account, which is free, will be credited with 5 free classes of your choice and 1 month nutrition coaching, including the Intro to Flexible Nutrition seminar. You'll also have the ability, to book one of the virtual classes, such as the SF30 with yours truly. This class is designed for busy individuals ready to get up, get their workout done, and move on with their day. And since it's virtual, you can access this class from home or the gym. It's a great way to build a new habit or for those looking for a little bit more accountability. This is also a great class for the more experienced person looking to pump out the workout to their max. Everyone works to their level and their ability. This class does not only include the Intro to Flexible Dieting seminars, but also the weekly Strength and Struggle seminar with myself, where our Strength and Struggles is designed to help clients work on habits, behaviors, mental hurdles when it comes to reaching not only your fitness goals, but any goals in life. You can enroll in that SF30 program right through the Triathlete Fitness app. Or you can head on over to the StriatleteFitness.com website, click on the What We Offer tab, scroll down and get yourself enrolled in the programs there. And once you get enrolled, you'll receive a confirmation email and one of the trainers will contact you. Another fantastic program launched by Triathlete Fitness is the Fit for Life Senior Program with Coach Megan. Maintaining a consistent fitness routine is important for all ages. Triathlete Fitness is excited to offer the Fit for Life Senior Fitness Program for adults looking to improve their cardiovascular health, increase their strength, work on balance, improve their overall well-being. These classes are designed to be low impact to prevent injury while also increasing muscle strength and energy levels. The best part about this class is that you can take it from the comfort of your own home. No weather or COVID issues. And those classes run on Tuesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome. And we have a ton of classes too. We have a lot going on. So for people out there, again, you download the app, the first 50 people to download it, they get 5 free classes of their choice and also 1 month of online nutrition coaching, including our Intro to Flexible Dieting seminar. Go to the app, download, enroll, and you will receive a confirmation email and also a chat from us, right? In that we have a personal chat also in the app, which is really cool. You'll receive a message through there letting you know what you received, how to enroll, and all that good stuff. So today's guest is a good friend of mine, known him for years, ran routes with him. Well, he ran routes. I couldn't run routes like him at the soccer complex. Triathlete Brian Goldsmith. Brian, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I do want to say, man, I am proud of everything that you have built. It seems like a different life ago when we were grinding at Planet Fitness together. I was working for Planet Fitness and you were, contracting out of there. And it was, it just seems like another life ago. And it's awesome to see how far you've come, man. So I wanted to congratulate you on that. It's really cool to see.
I really appreciate it, buddy. I really appreciate it. Yeah, those were the days, ain't it? Planet Fitness. Oh man, it does seem like a lifetime ago, right?
Making Timmy runs,
yeah. The old "I'll buy you"
drag
days.
Like plates with you to go to Tim Hortons. That's right.
Yeah, farm carried at Tim Hortons. Yeah,
I remember wanting coffee so bad, like I'll pay for it. Just somebody go get it. I have clients. Just somebody go get it, man. But since we've caught back up. Now, I know you played sports growing up. I know you played semi-pro football and things like that, but then you transitioned into triathlons. For people out there that don't know what a triathlon is, can you explain it to them?
Yeah, so it's funny because with the sport of triathlon, Ironman did a great job at branding. So every time I say triathlon, people assimilate that with, they conflate that with Ironman. Now, Ironman is a type of triathlon. So I am not an Ironman. And think of it like track and field. You know, when you talk about track, there's a million different distances. You know, there's, you know, the 5K, there's the mile, there's the marathon, there's the 100-meter dash. You know, there's sprints and, you know, ultra endurance sports. Well, the same thing with triathlon. Now, at the core of the sport, it's swim, bike, run in that order. So my discipline is the sprint distance. So you'd equate that to like 5K distance running, you know. So the race that I'm specifically I train for and compete in it's a half-mile swim, a 12.5-mile bike, and then a 5K run. So in the endurance world, that's called a sprint. You know, for a lot of people, that seems like a lot, but you know, compare that to an Ironman, which is kind of like the extreme version of that. And an Ironman is a 2.1-mile swim, 112-mile-ish bike, and then a marathon after that. So just to kind of give you an idea of the different ends of the spectrum there. Wow. I'm a sprinter, so that's the world that I live in.
Wow. And you said each distance was, the swim was
a half mile. In my world, a half mile.
Gotcha. And the bike was 12?
12.5. Yep.
And the run was
a 5K.
Nice. Wow.
Man, I was just on vacation. I swam the length of the pool and I was like, all right, it's time to go lay down.
Yeah, I had to carve up and get a drink when I was on vacation. I had to swim to the other end. I'm like, I'm gonna need to carve back up.
Well, I always tell people, you know, swimming it's a unique sport because, and I was the captain of my swim team growing up in high school at Ken Maurice. Shout out to Ken Maurice. But the unique thing about swimming is you can't breathe whenever you want. You know, every other sport in the world, you can just, you know, as soon as you start to get tired, you can stop and catch your breath or slow down. And swimming, it's all rhythmic breathing. So you breathe at the wrong time, you're inhaling water, and that's obviously not good. So that's how the race starts out. So it's pretty intense, you know?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about. What's that, Beth?
Basically, don't drown at the beginning of the competition.
And right. That's pretty much what I tell myself every race is just get through the swim. Just I tell myself, because with open water swimming, it's a whole other beast, you know, like regardless of my history with swimming in high school, swimming in open water is a completely different animal because everyone starts at the same time and everyone's trying to get the same line. So you're getting kicked and hit and you can't see.
Waves are coming at you, and
and you can't see the bottom, you know, and you know you have to spot swim, it's called. So as you're swimming, you have to like poke your head up to, you know, spot the targets that you're trying to hit. You know what I mean? As you're swimming, so it's pretty terrifying. So yes, you are correct. I'm always telling myself, don't die, please don't die today.
It's got to be kind of just pure chaos in the beginning of that swim. I mean, with everybody just going in,
it's insanity. If you look at my I always do like a YouTube video of, you know, my races. And if you check them out, you can see it's just pure insanity. You just try to just get a line and not hit other people, you know?
Now you mentioned swimming, and you swam in high school?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And can you give people a little background of what sport you took part in prior to triathlons, and then what also piqued your interest in them?
Yeah, it's a pretty wild story. And I know everyone says, I have a crazy story, but I think this one's pretty unique because video games had a great influence on my life, but we'll get to that in a second. But growing up, I was a baseball player, I was a football player, and I was a swimmer. Those were my three sports. I hated running. I never thought endurance sports would ever be anything I'd have any interest in whatsoever. And I played a year of college football in California. And then when I came back to Buffalo, I played Division I rugby at the University of Buffalo. And then I played, you know, because I was pretty small at the time. Not that I'm, you know, huge now, but, you know, I was a little bit scrawnier. And I was like, I can't make the UB football team. So I'll play rugby, still get that contact in. And then I wound up playing semi-pro football, and I played a couple years of professional indoor football as well in Buffalo too. So football, you know, was really my love, my passion, and you know, I just really enjoyed the experiences, getting to travel around and make a little money playing football, and it was just a cool experience. But when I got towards my like late 20s, having a full-time job and sacrificing, my nights, traveling to practice and, at weekends, going all over the place and not sleeping. And, it started to become like, it's time to hang him up. But I'm ultra competitive, and I like self-realized that I needed something in my life to get that beast out of me. Do you know what I mean? Like I need to make sure that like I'm competing and getting that out somehow, because otherwise, it's just, as an athlete, other athletes understand that. It's hard to kind of articulate that, but when I worked at a corporate place in Buffalo, they were part of the corporate challenge. Now, I don't know if you guys know what the corporate challenge is, but for those listening, it's a company goes around the country or the world actually and puts on major races in cities all over the world, and corporations buy into it, local corporations buy into it, and it's just a massive race. So the company that I was doing, did it, and it's a little over a 5K. I think it was like 4 miles or something like that, 3.5, actually 3.5. And I never had any interest in running at all, but there was beer at the end of it for free that the company was giving away. So I was like, there's an incentive,
Right.
So I did it, and I just kind of I was like, I'm going to try to do this in under a half hour. And I did it in like 29:30. And I was like, okay, that felt good to kind of set a goal for myself and accomplish it. But then it's like, then I went down that path of, what if I trained for this harder? I know I can do it faster. Well, how fast can I go? And you start going down that rabbit hole. And then this is where the funny part comes in. I started like really doing a lot of the 5Ks locally in Buffalo. And it's crazy because Buffalo is really intense, like has an intense running scene. There's races every weekend, and the community is very tight knit. And I really enjoyed that. And I started to see the other, the community aspect of endurance sports and 5Ks and stuff like that. So I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5 once, and in Grand Theft Auto 5, you can do a triathlon. And I was like, and in real time, like while you're playing the video game, it takes you like a half hour to do a triathlon. So you're just literally hitting X while the guy's like swimming and running and biking. So it's just like incredibly boring. But while I'm watching this avatar, the video game character do a triathlon, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, well, I'm really enjoying this running stuff. And I was a swimmer in high school, so I could do that. And I'm like, anyone can ride a bike, right? So I called my dad and I was like, Dad, these bikes are really expensive. I was looking into it. You think there'd be any chance that you could maybe like spot me and then I'll pay you back like monthly or whatever? And he's like, yeah, because he was a big supporter of my football stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'd love to, do that for you. So he got me a bike. And that was in I think it was St. Patrick's Day of 2016. So then I signed up for my first triathlon at ECC that year in May. And he wound up actually passing away in the time that he bought the bike to the time that my first race happened. So that bike meant the world to me, and me putting an effort into that triathlon really like meant the world to me, So I did it, obviously. And it was cool because I came in second place in my age group. And, this was I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just, arbitrarily like swimming, biking, and running with no real plan. I was just, I got to learn how to do these 3 things in a race at one point. So and to come in second place, in my age group was like pretty cool, and it felt good staying on that podium. And then the next week was the Buffalo Marathon weekend. And I saw the woman that had helped me kind of set up in the transition area the week before at the triathlon. And she was like, I think you qualified for nationals by coming in second place. And then me and my wife, my girlfriend at the time, went home, and we were looking at kind of the standards of USA Triathlon, what that means to go to nationals and why you would go to nationals. And then we found out there was a Team USA, and we found out if you come in the top 18 in the country, you get invited to Team USA and you get to travel the world. And I remember, it was very distinctively like I just made the decision right then and there. I'm like, this is going to be my new thing. I'm going to pour every ounce of energy that I have into qualifying for Team USA. And then, day in, day out, so that's what really motivated me. And then, I wound up proposing to my wife in Switzerland at the World Championships. We got to go to Rotterdam, so it's pretty cool. And then, I just had 2 races last week, and I came in second in the country and third in the country and back-to-back national championships at different distances. So it's like, it's been this long process of just grinding, but like always having that vision of competing for our country. And, so it's been pretty fun ride so far.
Wow. What an amazing story to get you started.
Thanks.
That's really cool. And that transition too, I think what piques an interest is, one, it's something new, because we were talking about a competitive outlet. Like, we need a competitive outlet no matter what. Like,
right.
If I don't have a competitive outlet, my competitive outlet becomes eating. And I'm like, I'll eat 27 hot dogs. You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, you can't do that, Brian. But you got to have some way to have that competitive outlet. And then when you find something new, not only does it fire yourself up competitively, but also you want to learn. So it's something you're learning and you can be competitive at, and you're constantly testing yourself at something totally new, which is really, really cool.
I think a lot of people are scared of, you have to like embrace you not being good at something. And that's a hard thing to do for a lot of people,
100%.
To be like, to be at a spot where I was, competing at a very high level with football, and, to go from that to, finishing at the bottom of the pack at 5Ks was just very humbling. And that's what drives me, because I'm, like you said, I'm very competitive, and I didn't like that feeling, so I wanted to learn everything there was, and how do I get to that spot, and it takes a lot of work, but it's the journey is, in my opinion, a lot more fun than the actual finish line. I enjoy the process. You got to live, breathe, and eat it, and, really just put your head down. And what I like about endurance sports too is you can't fake it. Once that race day comes, how hard did you train? Was it raining on your long run day and you skipped it? Like there's just nowhere to hide in a race. So that's what I really like about it too, is it's accumulation of all your hard work over a long period of time.
Yeah, you're 100% right too. It's the journey is, you remember the journey. Of course, you're training for something specifically, but for that race, but that journey leading up to it, like, you think back of what you did and the changes you made and the progress you've seen over time, and that's like a real reward,
Yeah.
How has your approach to training and nutrition changed from past sports to become more tri-specific?
So I definitely eat a lot more now. I am always hungry. I think a lot of it with endurance sports, I think not allergies, but we all eat, we all have certain things I feel like we know when we eat that upsets our stomachs, or like may not agree with us, or may cause a certain inflammation here and there, whatever. That becomes amplified with endurance sports. So there was a lot of testing out. I'm not going to say I did like elimination diets, but I did a lot of cutting certain categories out to see why I was having perpetual knee issues, or, why I was having stomach issues when I was running and things like that. And it's been a long, very, strategic approach to diet and nutrition as I've gone. And my FitnessPal has definitely been a real help for me, because when I first started, I lost a ton of weight really quick. And I didn't like that, because I've always, been on the strength side of things with football, and I lost like 25 pounds, and I was like really starting to see myself like get really thin. And I'm like, this has got to stop, like, what am I doing here? So I realized through my FitnessPal that I just wasn't taking in the amount of calories that I should have to not only try to maintain, but, I was losing weight. And that's where it was a real wake-up call for me. And I think my FitnessPal was a real helpful tool in really honing in my diet and nutrition.
I love how you mentioned that it took you a long time to figure out how certain foods worked in your body. But it was something that over that time became beneficial, because not every diet, not every food is specifically going to be the best fit for every person. Especially when people are if you are following, this worked for somebody else, so I'm going to do the same thing. Well, why am I not having the same results? Well, our bodies are so different and they're so individual. So it's great to hear, for myself, something that, a client of mine is like, oh, I this is what I'm going to try because I heard so-and-so, my friend tried it. Yeah, let's take the data. Let's use the MyFitnessPal, track it, see how it works with your body, and do that bit of research to find out what is going to work for your body.
Yeah. And that you're exactly right, because if you think about it, especially in the United States, like we're all from everywhere. And, there's thousands and thousands of years of, genetic history in each one of us that come from different parts of the world that were, accustomed to different diets and nutritional habits and things like that. So I think, with like you said, with everyone eating the, same diet, that's a square peg in a round hole for the majority of people. You have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. And something that was really hard for me was dairy. I mean, I love like milk, growing up, I had milk a ton, and I touch it and I'm a disaster now,
Yeah, it's the same way. When you remove it and then try to introduce it back in, it can either take a long time or it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
You'll lose the enzyme to actually digest the dairy.
Yes, yep.
If you don't use it, you lose it over time. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right,
wasn't that like the theory is it was an evolutionary trait that, like, I don't know. I read somewhere that was like, it was an evolutionary trait because if you didn't have the ability to digest milk, like if you're in the desert and you try to drink like camel milk, those who couldn't digest it would die. I don't know. It was
I don't know. We'll have to do some research on that one.
Sounds like a whole nother podcast.
That might have been on a carb depletion day. We were on that.
Next week, death in the desert due to camel. No, but it is true though. A lot of those things that, like with dairy, like we're saying, if you don't utilize that enzyme, you can lose it, and then reintroducing it can be very tough. I know that happened to me when I eliminated it, reintroduced it, and I still have issues to this day with dairy. And it could be for so many different reasons, but dairy is definitely one of those things that gives me trouble as well. Now, I know you talked about resistance. Wait, can we ask what your calories are sitting around now?
Yeah. I eat about like 3,000 to 3,200 a day. And that's like, sometimes I'm still in a deficit. So it's quite a bit. Yeah. Like today I did an F45 workout, and then I did an hour, like really hard, like a threshold bike ride. And then I did 2,500 yards in the pool. So that's about 1,200, 1,300 calories I burned right there. So then, based off, generally speaking, a 2,000 calorie diet, I'm trying to offset just the exercise to maintain where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And so you're talking about 3,200 calories right there just to, get at equilibrium, so it's, but if a bike is not going to burn as many calories as a run. So on days where I have, like an hour and a half run, I'm burning 1,300 calories, but, an F45 workout on top of that, that's another 400 or 500 calories. So that's just, it sometimes it becomes like, I just simply can't keep up with the amount of nutrition, like, and then there's days obviously you go over too, so in the grand scheme of things, I speak in generalities. I try to keep it, around that.
Yeah. And that's what I talk to my runners
about your body.
Exactly. That's what I talk to my distance runners about is caloric intake. You want to run and you want to maintain mass, you're going to have to increase your calories. You're going to have to eat. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like you talked about, you weren't tracking at first. When you incorporated the programming, you started to see a lot of weight loss, didn't like the way you looked, so you had to monitor your calories. But getting back to that, and I know you were a big resistance training guy back in the day. You were always working out in the gym all the time. Are there any exercises that you incorporated that you feel helped benefit your training?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things in triathlon that I noticed right off the bat when I first started was, I guess one of the things that I was hesitant to get into triathlon training with in the first place was I thought and this is just, a common misconception. Endurance sports meant you look like a scarecrow. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
because you see a lot of these people that are really good at it and they're very, very thin, and they almost look sick to a point, and I was like, I do not want to like enter that realm. I really have, worked to get strong and, fit in terms of like football conditioning wise. So, there was a guy that really inspired me. His name was Patrick Cutter. And, this guy is absolutely jacked and he's from Rochester and he runs like 2-hour, 40-minute marathons. Like this guy is an absolute animal. And he was somebody who like completely shifted my idea of like what's possible in the sport. And that really started to lead me down the path of like, well, if this guy can do it, what's stopping me from doing it? Because he had a very similar background, football player turned endurance athlete. And as soon as I entered the sport, I realized that, it's obviously, I know it's going to sound like the most obvious statement of all time, but you're balancing 3 sports. You're swimming, you're biking, and you're running. So you need to touch on all of those a couple times a week. So you're constantly juggling. And strength training is really important as well. But I noticed that's the first one to go to most triathletes. So I've kind of had this chip on my shoulder from day one that I want to kind of prove that you can, I'm not saying I'm jacked or anything like that, but I don't look like your typical triathlete. Like at these events, I don't look like most of them. And it was pretty interesting, like what you're asking me. A lot of people were coming up and asking me at the race last week because I had success, because I was on the podium.
Oh.
People were like, whoa, this guy looks different and he's good. Like, what's the deal with this now? You know what I mean? So to kind of loop it back around to your question, I think I really started to high intensity interval training and more the functional type exercising really, I think, is what propelled me to kind of the next tier of success in the sport. I was doing it on my own I live right down the street from the Cowboys practice facility. So there was a gym called Cowboys Fit that I was at. And I just looked like a maniac on a daily basis because I printed out these workouts. Michael Vasquez was the guy that I followed. And he was like a break dancer and he had crazy fitness and he was doing all these, really intense workouts. So I was like, instead of just doing 3 sets of bench press from 10 to 12 reps, going to, you know what I mean? Like Monday's chest day.
Breakdancing is a great part of building your skill for triathlons.
I would say, yes, absolutely. Well, catch me on a Saturday night and I may tell you.
So you were like in the gyms, I brought this cardboard box and boom box. People were looking at me like I was crazy, but yeah.
And but this guy had some crazy workouts that were, incorporating a lot of burpees and functional type workouts. So I was, really heading down that path and seeing the benefits of it because with training with all these, 3 different sports, I wanted to maximize my time at the gym. I didn't want to spend, 2 hours just walking around and talking to people and like, just, especially as you get older, there's like no reason to be like blowing out your shoulders trying to do like max bench press, you know what I mean? Or like just doing max squats and stuff like that. There's really no place for it in my world. So I really started to enter that realm. And then a buddy of mine I met him here in Dallas. He got drafted by the Diamondbacks. So this guy like has a legit, history. And he was like, dude, you got to come to F45 with me. And I was just like, kind of brushed it off, even though I was in that like hit mindset. I was just kind of like, nah, that's like not my thing. He's like, you got to come. So it was actually about a year ago now that I went and, I got to tell you, it changed my life. Now that I've been in that world for a year and I've seen the success that I've had, I think it's a direct result of that high intensity training. I think just HIIT training in general is incredibly beneficial for you. Learning how to improve your muscular endurance while, incorporating strength into it as well, while pushing yourself, in terms of like the tempo. I think that's just has such really integral benefit and to what I've done in the past year. I can't tell you how grateful I am for him to have invited me to that, because, you know, how much longer could I have just gone to a gym by myself and really push myself? You know what I mean? So I love working out with other people. I love the team aspect. I love, you know, having the direction, and I don't like thinking when I'm working out. I like someone telling me what to do. I like having it laid out for me. Do you know what I mean? It's we've all been there. You just kind of get lost if you go into a gym. And, you know, for people like us, sometimes it's, you know, and I hate to say like this, you know, these cliches, but it's like periodization through analyzation. Like, we have so much knowledge that you try to get to too much stuff in a day, and then you just kind of bog yourself down with like doing too much, or, you know, not really having much direction. So I'm very regimented, and that's why I like, you know, having the plan of action, and, you know, bam, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you're done. You know, you get a great workout in. It's pre-planned, it's intense. And sorry to ramble, but that's, you know.
No, it's good stuff, man. That's good stuff, because I agree with you a lot. As trainers too, we do run into it's, I call it what is it, paralysis by overanalysis. Like, we overthink things so much, and we want to build this kick butt program for ourselves, and sometimes it's nice to put in someone else's hands and be like, I'm just going to follow what you lay out.
Yeah
Because I'll be, you know, and I have a garage gym, and I'll be out there sometimes, and I'm like, but did I hit abductors and a frontal plane enough? Like, it's like, I don't think you need to worry about. I think you're good.
Right.
So Brian, what have you learned from your first triathlon to your latest triathlon? Like, what changed?
I would say the biggest thing, and this isn't even specific to triathlon, but triathlon has kind of taught me this life lesson, is consistency is what gets you to where you want to get to. I've been reading Atomic Habits. I don't know if you know that book, but it's pretty interesting. You know, atomic, and the term that he's using it is, you know, on the very micro molecular level, you know, what you're doing on a daily basis, you know, is amplified in something. So like your health, your fitness, your financial situation, these are all lagging indicators of your day-to-day processes. And it really is easy to get lost, you know, to not see the forest through the trees, to coin a phrase there. You know, like, it's easy to be like, well, I'm tired today, I'm not going to do it. Or it's just, you know, one day where I'm not paying attention to what I'm eating, you know, or, do you know what I mean? But these
absolutely.
are amplified over, you know, the course of a very long time. So, like, you know, an example would be like letting your entire weekend go, you know, not well with eating, as opposed to like just Sundays. Well, that's 8 days a month as opposed to 4 days a month. You know what I mean? It's just these like these little things become magnified. Or, you know, if you say like, you know, a cheat meal, for instance, like people say cheat meal all the time. Well, a cheat meal turns into a cheat day. Well, it doesn't have to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, don't throw away the whole day because, you know, you had an ice cream or something like that. I don't know, but it's just, I keep this in my mind as I go along with everything. It's consistency. Like today, I just had 2 races last week, you know, and I have the state championship for Texas coming up in a couple weeks. And I did F45, and I did a really hard bike, and I was cutting it close at the time with my swim. And it would have been really easy for me to be like, I can just skip the swim today. It's not that big a deal. You already worked out for like 2 hours. But no, like, I have a plan. I wrote it down for a reason. Do it, you know, and it's having the greater goal in mind. And that's, I think, taught me, you know, it's really come to fruition, especially recently with the dedication I've had to just sticking with a plan and just executing it. So that's the biggest goal, I think, that I've learned, taken away.
I have a question for you. So you did 2 races last week, 2 triathlons, or just races?
Yeah, triathlons.
2 triathlons. Okay. So do you have like a training camp that you do leading up to a race, or is it just more like, no, you're conditioned all year round?
So there's an app called Training Peaks that I use. It's for like endurance athletes, and USA Triathlon or USA Track and Field certified coaches, they'll put programs on this app. So if you're training for a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, triathlon, Ironman, whatever, you can, search and filter by how many hours a week you want to dedicate, what skill level you are, how many weeks it is, all that kind of stuff. So you can plan it, you put it right on your calendar, you can apply it to the end date, and then it's just an execution. So they have you peak and taper all in relation to when your races are coming up. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
I was happy I got in 10,000 steps over the weekend, but apparently
That's
Right,
something
we
to be
all have
proud of.
different goals, okay?
I was eating
Proud.
3,000 calories because I got in 10,000 steps. But apparently,
That's something to be proud of, man. Whatever.
little wins, man. Little wins.
That's right.
So when you're taking part in a triathlon, what portion of the triathlon do you find the most difficult?
Swimming, not even close.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you almost die in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
You're all
Almost died.
trying to drown each other to get in the front.
So I'm a swimmer, right? Like I grew up as a swimmer, but like I said, swimming in a pool compared to outdoors is just completely different. And there's typically 2 national championships. One's a draft legal and one's a non-draft legal. And last year I signed up for the draft legal race in Tempe, Arizona in November. And the non-draft legal race was in Wisconsin in August. So if you remember back to, July of 2021, the COVID narrative started to really ramp up again. And I didn't think that the race in November was going to happen. And I really wanted to compete for the national championship. So I was like, I got to go to Milwaukee if I'm going to get it in. I think they're going to sneak this race in before everything shuts down again. That was just kind of my mentality, kind of trying to read the tea leaves a little bit. And the timing was, like I told you, about a year ago, I got into F45. So I was only training at F45 and I wasn't swimming. And I didn't have I hadn't swam for a couple months going into the national championship. And when you wear a wetsuit, it's a common thing. I learned this. I did not know this, but if you aren't practicing in a wetsuit, you're really susceptible to having a panic attack in the water because it compresses you and you can't catch your breath. So in Milwaukee last year, I got about halfway through the swim and I just had a meltdown. Like my limbs just stopped working. And it was like one of the most horrifying experiences of my life. And I was flopped on one of the kayaks out there. Like I just felt like the biggest loser in the world because there's, hundreds of people watching. And I'm not a celebrity, but like I know a lot of these people from across the country because we see each other at these national events, so I just felt like the biggest loser in the world because I was just a beached whale on this. So
Right.
That's always in the back of my head. You know what I mean? Now, every time I do a race, I'm like, but it's also in the back of my head in a good way where I told myself today, like, get in that damn pool. Milwaukee's not going to happen to you again, ever again. You know what I mean? Like, do not miss your swim workouts, so it's kind of like a negative experience that I flipped into a positive because it drives me for that to never happen again. But yeah, the swim is just like, it's such a mental, my buddy who won the national championship on Thursday, the race the next day, so the super sprint was on Thursday and then the sprint was on Friday. So that's why they were back to back. It was a festival. There were races all through Sunday. He had a panic attack the next day, and this dude is a national champion. So like it happens to it's just a bizarre mental. It's just a weird thing. It's a tough thing. So
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's it's a very mental sport, especially the beginning swim part. So yeah, to answer your question, the swim part's terrifying.
And you mentioned a wetsuit. What other equipment is needed when taking part in a tri?
So you have your wetsuit to start. You got your wetsuit. It helps with buoyancy. And if the water's freezing, it helps.
Yeah. What's the usual temp of the water? Like, is it just
Like a
kind of
polar
depend
plunge?
on when you get there? Yeah. Like,
It's whatever you. So like the water this weekend was freezing. It was 70 degrees. And I didn't wear a wetsuit on the race on Thursday. So when you jumped in, you just lose your breath. And that's another added element to it. Trying to catch your breath while you're swimming is pretty scary. But you have your wetsuit, your goggles. So that's all you need for the swim. You have a tri kit, it's called. So it's a 1-piece or 2-piece, and you could have a sleeves or no sleeves, just your preference. And then for the bike, you need your helmet, your bike, which is expensive, obviously. And then you have your computer on your bike, which measures all your metrics while you're riding. So, you want to measure your output, your cadence, your speed, all these different elements. You figure out what your functional training power is. So while you're riding, where you should be at while you're riding. And different distance races, there's different strategies to where you should be in your power. So that computer on your bike is pretty helpful. And then you have your cycling shoes that are on your pedals, they're clipped in. Rubber bands attached to your bike or your shoes. So it's called the flying mount. So in a sprint, every second counts. So when you run with your bike out of transition and you jump on it while it's moving, put your feet on top of the shoes and start pedaling, it snaps those rubber bands. Then you slide your feet into the shoes that are already attached, to the clips on the pedals. And it's just, you have to go. And I won by 1 second on Thursday. So that's like how important it is. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Do you practice like pit stop activities? Like, okay, time me, and you run and jump in to get your clips on like as fast as you can.
It's really important. Yeah, you have speed laces on your shoes, everything. You put your belt on while you're running, all kinds of every second, every possible moment. Now in an Ironman, it's very different. Your transition areas like your pit stop. It's like take, have a breakfast, like have lunch. You know what I mean? Like eat a sandwich, chill out for a couple minutes, or a while. You've been on the bike for 8 hours. Relax.
So do you run with the shoes that are on the bike then?
The shoes are already on the bike, on the pedals.
So it goes from swim to bike.
Yep.
To run.
Yeah.
So do those shoes stay on the bike and then you have to put different shoes on?
So as you approach the transition area coming in from the bike, when you ride the course the day before and you kind of get a feel for everything you take your shoes you take your feet out of the shoes, and then you pedal the last little bit with your feet on top of the shoes. And then there's a technique to jumping off the bike while it's still moving. And then you just run with the bike, throw it on the rack, slide your shoes on, and then go to the run. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty badass sport. I really enjoy it. It's intense.
Right, you talked about equipment, but are there any like types of gels or food you bring along to keep you energized throughout this?
For a sprint, the race only takes me about an hour. So there's really no reason for me to do that.
Sprints for an hour?
Yeah. No, the whole triathlon or just the sprints?
The race, like the entire race is like an hour.
Gotcha. I'm like, you sprint for an hour?
I'm out.
So it's like you swim as fast as you can, bike as fast as you can. Your heart's redlining the entire hour. You're just you're dancing that dance.
It's gonna be pretty intense.
It is. And that's why when you finish, like that rush that you get, I'm addicted to that, because I've never really been able to duplicate that feeling of like scoring a touchdown or, winning a football game. And this is, just kind of a one-to-one to me when you're successful, like training so hard for something and then crossing that finish line. It's an incredible feeling.
So is there a special technique you're using when, like, I know you talked about cadences, but as far as swimming, like, what's the technique called that you're using when you're swimming? Because I doggy paddle. So for me, I'm good. But for you,
it's called
I'm sure you're not doing the doggy paddling.
You'd be surprised, man. A lot of people, they'll just panic and then they'll just start backstroking or they'll just start breaststroking.
Really?
Yeah. The front crawl's the move, because as you come up, you can pull your head up to spot, where you're going. Some people bilateral breathe. So that's breathing every like third or fifth stroke. So you breathe to the right and to the left. I bilateral breathe until I start to get tired, and then I'll start doing it on the same side. Because in a sprint, you're kind of hitting that anaerobic place. Mm-hmm. Whereas, in an Ironman, it's just obviously all aerobic. You can't sprint for 2.5 miles in the swim unless you're a superhero,
Right. So what'd you say the technique was called?
It's called bilateral breathing. That's Because it
And then
kind of
how do
keeps you even keeled too. Because if you're constantly breathing to one side, you tend to like pull that way too. And swimming straight lines,
Oh, yeah.
like swimming the
Gotcha.
tangents is really important. So that's why bilateral breathing is advantageous for people.
Yeah, I totally agree to that. I remember my parents videoed one of my swimming lessons when I was like, I don't know, 10. And my video was me going like this across the pool because I kept breathing to the one side. So,
But then you
Very
stand
true.
up and you're like, wait a
I'm
minute,
like,
I didn't go
I'm thinking of it
straight.
at the end, and I was like, I'm at the side wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in your mind, you're going so straight.
Like, I got this.
Believe me, that's happened to me in races too. And you're like, oh no.
And on your runs too. So the training and the programming has to be super important, because you can't just go balls of the wall. You have to have a strategy involved with this. So there's been a strategy with the swim, a strategy with the bike. And then how's your cadence work when you run?
So a good cadence is like 180 steps per minute.
Okay.
But I got little legs, so I like crank it up a little bit. And it was funny too, because it's funny you mentioned plan, because my buddy who won, so he came in first on Thursday and I came in second, and then he came in second and I came in third on Friday. And I was like, I lost by 13 seconds. And my plan was, I know he's not a great runner. I'm higher in the triathlon world and ability level for running. So I was just like, let's just hang with him for the bike and the swim, and then I can get him at the run. And I ran. So my goal is to run a fast first mile, a slower second mile, and then empty the tank in the third mile. And I ran a 6-minute mile for the first one. My second mile was 6:38. And then my third mile was like 5:50 in that neighborhood. And I slowed down too much in that second mile, and I lost by 13 seconds. Because as I was emptying the tank at the end, I saw him and I like didn't think it was him, because usually he kills me. And I was just like, there's no way that can be him. And if I just executed a little bit better, the plan was right, but the execution was terrible. So that was, but we still got to stand on the podium together, and it was cool. But
and that drives you too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That sticks with you.
That's like, it's like those greyhounds, you know what I mean? Like they're chasing the rabbit. That's how I am. Like, put it in front of me and I'm just going to like, I'll stroke out, but before I lose, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to.
Well, seeing how intense these runs are, and triathlons are, and swimming, what is your post recovery routine after a triathlon?
You probably shouldn't ask me that, because I'm not good at it.
What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, what you're supposed to do. No, I mean, I like to roll out and stretch.
Yeah.
You do, because the disciplines are so different from swimming to biking to running, your legs just cramp up, and you've all these like weird aches and pains, your lats from swimming, all of a sudden to getting in that fixed position on the bike, your abs from just cranking out watts in the bike. And then when you lean over to like take your shoes off, I get a cramp in my abs like every time. And my buddy Phil was just talking to me about some company that he's kind of partnered with, that they measure your sodium levels and make drinks specifically for you. So I thought that was pretty cool. I haven't really, I certainly need to get better at that. If I ever were to increase my distances, like I'm able to power through it just because like it's an hour, you know what I mean? And then I just, drink a Pedialyte or something, then I'm good to go, stretch a little bit, roll out. But it's nothing like, I don't really, do the, what are those, the legs?
The compression. Yep.
Yeah. Like I don't get into all that kind of stuff. A lot of people, swear by that in the endurance world, especially for the longer stuff. But for me, I just, do a quick stretch, do maybe a cool down run maybe a mile.
No massage therapy, no acupuncture,
none of that.
Nothing.
None of that. I probably should get better at that, but
He's like,
we all have areas of opportunity.
What's
we can
your
get
recovery?
Better, right?
3,000 calories. That's my recovery.
Just
Robin
being
asked-
honest with you. Just being honest, you know?
Oh, we have a
Robin
question.
asked-
Yeah.
Yeah, Robin asked, what do you fuel with during the race? But you said it was an hour, so
Only an
there's
hour.
really not much.
Yeah, I don't put anything in. I actually took my water cage off my bike to get rid of the weight. I mean, I literally don't put anything in there. So I just power through it for an hour, you know, because typically for, you know, like a marathon or a half marathon or any type of endurance stuff, the typical rule of thumb is every 45 minutes, you should be putting some kind of carbohydrate, some quick absorbing carb, like GU is, the brand GU is like real popular. But for the length and distance that I'm doing, there really isn't a point to do it, to putting nutrition, you know, as you go. You know, on the run course, I will slam a water or whatever they have on the course, you know, but nothing specifically I carry.
Is there something that you eat pre-triathlon specifically?
I have an apple. With peanut butter before every race. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get that fat and the quick absorbing sugars, you know, and the carbs, and it's really light, you know, and it's easy to carry with you. You know, you get one of those little Jif packs with an apple. You can throw that in your backpack, eat it in transition while you're getting ready. That's kind of my whole, you know, I have to do that. Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
Your post meal is a beer. If there's beer,
Whatever you're putting in front of me, I'm eating it.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you've been able to do all this. You know what I mean? Like pretty much injury free through all this, correct?
Yeah. And you know, what I'm, like I told you, I'm trying to change the idea of what it is to be an endurance athlete. And that's why I'm really starting to get into the obstacle course racing stuff. And I've seen success in that. Like I won my division for the High Rocks competition here in Dallas about a month ago now. And if you know what a High Rocks is, it's very similar to like a CrossFit competition with 8 physical stations, and then you do a 1K run in between each station. So, you know, I won that, and then I'm doing the Spartan Stadion race, it's called. So it's a cowboy stadium. I'm sure you've seen the Spartan races. Who hasn't, right? So these are just transitioned into a stadium. So you go up and down all the stairs in the stadium through the locker rooms and the field. So I'm really going to try to make the world championships for that too. So I think it'd be cool to say I made the world championships in triathlon. You know, I'm a former football player, world championships in triathlon, world championships for High Rocks, world championships for Spartan. And I think it's just a very unique, you know, I want to redefine. I want people to just rethink what's possible. I think that's that's like at the core of like everything that I do. I want to inspire other people to
I love
be,
that.
you know, think beyond what's possible of themselves. So that's what I do.
People tend to put themselves in a box and say, this is all I'm allowed. This is the only thing that I can do. And it's horrifying. It's so scary to step outside of the box and try something new. But my gosh, when you do, and then it's that, well, what if, what else? What else can I do? And then it just kind of, you know, barrels on from there.
See, I have like, you've been talking to me. I'm a nice guy, but I kind of have like an attitude problem where someone says like, you can't do that. Well, guess what? I'm just going to like do everything possible to try to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
So at that national championships, I had somebody that kind of knows me tell me that I failed in the swim because I'm not focused only on triathlon. You know, I needed to stop doing the F45 stuff and I needed to stop doing the OCR stuff. So I know I didn't do well in the swim because I hadn't been swimming because, you know, I didn't have a membership at a gym with a pool. So in my mind, as soon as he said that to me, I'm just like, now I need to win one of these competitions because now I need to be a super high level triathlete and an obstacle course guy. You know what I mean? And that just stuck with me. That just really like, and he didn't mean anything by it. He was like a very friendly guy. He was very nice. But in my mind, I'm just like, you got no idea what I'm capable of, man.
It's like Michael Jordan said in The Last Dance, and I took that person.
That's exactly right. My face should be on that meme. Well, yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
No, but it's true. Like we talked about before, man, competitive outlet. Like when you have a drive, I think what the quote is, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.
Yes, it's not I have that quote in my room. I love that. Those who
And-
say they can, those who say they can't, they're both usually right. I love
Yeah.
that.
And that's such a powerful quote because it all starts with mindset.
Yeah.
It all starts with before I've done anything, whether it's getting it, going in for a big squat or doing whatever. If I'm going in going, I can't get this, it's over. You got it. Don't even do it. Just walk away. You're already done. So I'd rather fail believing that I can totally do this than go in with a defeated mindset. And then when you fail, it's almost like you're trying to figure out why it happened because it wasn't supposed to happen.
That's when the learning and the progress comes.
Yeah.
And I tell that to people all the time too. Like it's especially like at F45, a lot of the, we've a lot of beginners, that really have never done fitness before, and they'll just be like, they see some of my accomplishments and they'll say, it's incredibly impressive what you do. And I'll just say, it's not. I'm no different than anybody else. I've just put my head down and I just don't accept not doing it every day. You know what I mean? And that's all there is to it. It's not like I'm just made of something different than you, and I want to be the example. I want to be the example of what's possible in everybody. That's what really drives me. That's what the whole Go for the Goldie world thing that I do is I want to show to the world I was a nobody and I still am a nobody, but I just work really hard to be a nobody.
There's just just letting people know there's no difference. There's no difference.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
We have the same 24 hours. We do the same thing. Some of us have more obstacles, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. So it's almost it's pretty cool as you age and you're still able to accomplish these things. Because people think, well, I'm this age, that's behind me. Well, why? Well, because it's behind me. Well, why? There's no reason for it to be behind you. Why?
That right there is, one of the other main attractive qualities of the endurance world too, is it's all done by age group. So to make it an even playing field. So at the World Championships, I can do this forever until I die, as long as I'm able to, have a healthy body, which obviously is why I do what I do. Like there was a guy on the podium last week. He was 89 years old, and they had to invent an age group for him because it's crazy. You know what I mean? Like how do you see someone like that and then see a 34-year-old like I'm too old? Like what are you talking about? Yeah.
Again, it's mental. It's mental.
It's all
you
mental.
Believe it, it's done. You know
That's
what
right.
I mean? Oh, this has been awesome podcast. Brian, you want to tell the people the new news, the big news?
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
there's always something more.
There's more. No, I'm going to be joining Sperduti Fitness, so I'm very, very excited. Yeah. Let's just say it's been like 12 years in the making, right?
Right. I know, right? I know. Yep. Brian's going to be running Grinding with Goldie. It's going to be Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern and Sunday mornings at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to drop more ads for that, advertisements.
Yeah.
Brian, if people want to get a hold of you, if they have questions or things like that, how can they get a hold of you? And throw out your social media handles. He does a ton on social media, especially a lot of YouTube and TikTok stuff.
Yeah. So the Go for the Goldie moniker, GO, the number 4, THEGOLDY. That's my handle on Instagram. My YouTube channel, if you go to YouTube and just search that, it'll pop up, with my logo. My YouTube channel, I record a lot of my IRL or, like a lot of the events that I do. And I do like an F45 vlog too. So my vision is like, if you're not feeling into it, just watch one of those videos. I'm all jacked up and, bouncing off the wall. So hopefully it rubs off a little bit. And I mean, reach out to me on Instagram, and I just try to be a beacon of positivity and motivation. And I truly believe in the world of fitness. I mean, you have to lead by example in this world. And I just really take that to heart every day. And I feed off people succeeding in this world. There's no better feeling in the world than when someone sets a goal and they accomplish it, and you've kind of just greased the wheels to help them get there. And it's just, it's very rewarding. So I really looking forward to being a part of this world here. And I can't wait to get started.
Awesome, man. We're super pumped. I'm super pumped. Like you said, it's like 12 years in the making, which is awesome. We'll get everybody more information. You'll see some ads going out as well for Grinding with Goldie. If you want to get a hold of Beth, it's beth@spirudifitness.com. If you want to get a hold of myself, it's brian@spirudifitness.com. And Brian will be
also a lot easier to go on the app, and you can message us right through the app.
You can message us right through the app. Spirudi Fitness app. Download it. First 50 people, 5 free classes, and a free month of nutrition, online nutrition coaching, including our Intro to Flexible Dieting seminar. For myself, Beth, and Brian, want to thank everybody for joining us today, and we will catch you guys next podcast.
Can I say one last thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Go Bills. We'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.